In a remote desert area of the American Southwest, in one of the western states, something strange and incomprehensible happened in 2005. One train, winding through the vast expanse of this immense desert, stopped suddenly, as if consumed by the mystery that enveloped it on that silent morning. The car of our train stood as if a prisoner of an inexplicable mystery, with only impenetrable blackness outside the window. There was no signal on the network, and the menacing, completely black clouds were rapidly approaching, shrouding the sky with their ominous cover. Sudden flashes of light broke the gloom, but they did not bring relief, only increased the sense of endless menace. No lightning flashed, only the darkness was replaced by white flickering flashes, like ghostly fireflies fading into the bottomless ocean of darkness. It began to rain, but not watery rain, but black rain, as if streams of darkness were pouring down from the heavens, flooding the desolate land. In this timelessness, a woman's scream came out of nowhere. It was shrill, hopeless, as if calling from the depths of oblivion. It sounded in harmony with the raging wind, creating a dark concerto of horror. A vague feeling, as if all were mere pawns in a game that no one could understand, possessed the passengers. They looked at each other, eyes reflecting the same fear and bewilderment. And only a few brave men, including the conductor, tried to solve the riddle, opening the door to a possible outcome. But instantly a current of air tore the door from their hands, as if an invisible hand restrained all who tried to leave the hopelessness of this mystery. Altogether they closed the door again, but already with the realization that the mystery of the black train exceeded their comprehension. And suddenly as this night of terror had begun, it ended. The clouds parted, the rain stopped, and the unknown force that had held the train together retreated back into the darkness from which it had come. The train moved on again, as if nothing had happened, but in the hearts of the passengers, a scar was left from the encounter with the inexplicable. After that strange incident, the train moved on, as if nothing had happened. Passengers, as if awakened from a nightmare dream, slowly recovered from the horror they had experienced, but in their hearts there remained an unsearchable fear of what might have happened. As time went on, talk began to swirl around the mysterious occurrence. Some saw it as a sign of an unprecedented natural force, others as a portent of something more sinister. But in essence, no one could offer a logical explanation for what was happening. The conductor, despite her manly appearance, was also inwardly trembling before the unknown. She tried to reassure the passengers, but there was a tremor in her voice that she could not hide. As soon as the train entered the communication zone, all the passengers rushed to check their cell phones. Many were shocked at the lack of signal at a time when it was most needed. This only reinforced the feeling that they were inside some kind of space bubble, isolated from the outside world. The clocks on wristwatches and smartphones showed 8 p.m., despite the fact that not even half an hour had passed since the train had stopped. This gave an eerie sense of lost time, as if they had plunged into a parallel reality, where the laws of time and space had ceased to apply. The brave researchers began to discuss ideas about what had happened, but their theories sounded more like fantasy plots from science fiction movies than real explanations. And as the train continued its journey through the vast expanse of the American desert, the hearts of the passengers remained restless, knowing that they had encountered something beyond their comprehension, something that defied logic and reason. Hello everyone. I want to share with you my exciting river adventure in northern Canada. Decided to go on a solo trip by boat, covering a small route of only 50 kilometers, 2 days of paddling and 1 night in a tent. In the morning I was already on the river, prepared everything I needed, packed it in a hermetic bag, and started downstream. The weather was beautiful. The sun was shining. The birds were chirping. The fish were biting. I needed to get to a certain spot I knew, a small pebble spit with a beautiful clearing under tall fir trees, a perfect place to spend the night. I got to this spot, set up camp, and went fishing. Caught a few trout, and then went back to camp to cook dinner. In the evening, as the sun was setting and a new moon appeared in the sky, I heard a whisper in my ear, Go away. At first I thought it was my imagination, but I heard it again. That whisper sounded like a warning. I stepped out of the tent and looked around, but found nothing but the rain starting to lightly sprinkle. My mind told me this was ridiculous, but something inside compelled me to act. I quickly packed up and left the camp, walking along the shore until I found a suitable place to sleep for the night. In the morning, I woke up and saw that the area where my tent had stood was flooded with water. This incident left many questions and thoughts in my mind. What was this warning? And what could have caused the water level to rise? Either way, it was an exciting and mysterious adventure on a river in northern Canada. For the rest of my journey, I couldn't get rid of thoughts of what happened that night. The whisper I heard has always remained a mystery to me. I asked myself if it could have been just a product of my imagination, or if there was something more inexplicable and mysterious. Despite the incomprehensible events, I continued to enjoy the beauty of the surrounding nature. Floating on the river, the amazing scenery and wildlife encounters made this trip unforgettable. But every time I remembered that night, my heart beat a little faster and my thoughts returned to the mysterious whisper. As I approached the end of my journey in landfall, I felt mixed emotions. On the one hand, I was excited for the impending end of the adventure, but on the other hand, there was still the mysterious whisper that kept me on my toes. Eventually, I reached the shore where a car was waiting to take me back to civilization. Back home, I continued to reflect on my adventure, hoping that one day I would find the answers to all my questions. This journey left me with unforgettable impressions and mysteries that I will always remember. At the edge of the dark expanse of the sea, a small yacht floated, washed by the cold waves. On its deck stood 4 people: Jack, Anna, Mike, and Sarah. They had been friends since childhood and had always dreamed of traveling on the sea. Finally, their dream had come true when they rented this yacht for a week. Sarah sighed, enjoying the fresh sea air while Jack steered the yacht, guiding it towards the remote island they planned to explore. Soon they set about preparing dinner, talking and laughing without either of them noticing that either of them were feeling sick. In the evening, as the sun began to set over the horizon, they gathered in the cabin to eat dinner. Suddenly, Mike started complaining of nausea and dizziness. The others thought it was seasickness and tried to calm him down. They had no idea that this was just the beginning of the nightmare that awaited them on this boat. As the hours wore on, Mike's condition worsened, and he began to show strange signs. He was sluggish in answering questions, his eyes were lifeless, and his face was pale. Anna began to panic, and Sarah tried to find medication in the first aid kit on the boat. Jack, on the other hand, was concerned with the direction of the ship, not paying much attention to what was happening in the cabin. When Sarah found the medication and returned to Mike, she found him lying unconscious on the floor. Terrified, she turned to Jack for help, but he was unresponsive. She turned to Anna to share her alarm, but she too was lying breathless on the floor. Fear gripped Sarah as she realized that she was the only one left alive on this cursed yacht. She started to run, trying to find rescue, but suddenly met the captain of the yacht, standing in her path with a knife in his hand. "You couldn't leave us alone, could you?" he hissed, approaching her slowly. Sarah realized that the captain was a homicidal maniac and that he had killed all her friends. She rushed towards the stern of the yacht, trying to escape, but the captain caught up with her and plunged the knife into her back. Sarah fell to the deck with the knife in her back and felt her strength draining away, and the pain becoming more and more unbearable. She closed her eyes, trying to focus on her breathing to keep consciousness. The fate of her friends never left her mind. She remembered their laughter, their joy, and now they were dead, consumed by this nightmare. But even in this hopeless situation, Sarah found the determination to survive. She slowly rose to her feet, ignoring the pain that was tearing through her body. Willpower was her only ally in this battle against the darkness. Concentrating, she began to look around the yacht for escape. The creaking of wood, the sound of waves, Everywhere were signs of an approaching storm. She realized she had to act fast. Walking down the stairs to the cabin, she carefully pulled the knife from her back, ignoring the agony, and dragged it behind her belt. She knew that the captain was somewhere nearby, and that she needed to be ready to fight for her life. But when she opened the cabin door, she found it empty. The bodies of her friends lay on the floor, blood creating gruesome patterns on the white towels. She couldn't stay here much longer. The storm was getting closer. Sarah began searching the cabin for the keys to the boat or a radio to call for help. Suddenly, her gaze fell on a small gold-colored key lying on the table. Rushing toward this key, she felt an intense excitement. But at that moment, someone pulled her by her hair and grabbed her by the throat. She screamed and broke free of his grip, turning around to see the captain, his face contorted with rage and madness. She was close to passing out, but at the last moment she snatched the knife and stabbed him. The captain groaned and let go of her, blood spurting from his wound. Sarah rushed to the cabin door, but as she did so, the yacht bumped the side against a huge wave, and she lost her balance, falling to the floor. The captain, wriggling in pain, got up and approached her again. She knew this was the end if she couldn't do something about it. Through the pain and fear, she concentrated and stabbed the captain in the heart. He groaned once more and fell a lifeless corpse to the floor. Sarah, wasting no time, got up and ran out onto the deck where the storm raged with unprecedented fury. She saw the waves sweep the yacht down into the bottomless abyss. She didn't know if she could survive this hell, but she knew she had to try. Dark clouds covered the sky, lightning illuminated the abyss, and Sarah realized that this was the end. But she wasn't afraid. Her last thoughts were of her friends, of their smiles and laughter that would forever remain in her heart. And as the yacht plunged into the darkness of the sea, she froze with cold and fear, but the fire of hope burned in her soul. Hope that someone, someday, would find them, find their bodies, and learn the truth about what had happened on that cursed yacht. But while the waves swallowed their trail, their story remained a mystery, buried in the darkness of the sea, lost forever in the bottomless abyss of the ocean.